Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another FIFA 22 video where today we're going to be checking out the 4-2-3-1 wide formation. I don't actually think we've covered this year in FIFA 22, but for me personally, I really like this formation. I would arguably say I prefer it to the narrow 4-2-3-1. I think I just prefer maybe having the left and right mids. I just think that sometimes with the narrow ones, with the three cams, it can get a little bit tight. But I do think the 4-2-3-1 is obviously quite a tough formation to break down, and it is definitely a lot more popular. But I do like the 4-2-3-1 wide. I definitely think it has some strengths. One of the negatives with this formation, though, is obviously with having left and right mids, it is very good defensively, but it's a bit tough offensively because you really only have your striker and cam. A lot of the attacking and a lot of the goal scoring prowess falls on those front two. They score probably 90% of your goals, so you really got to have two top tier players. Obviously, you can see we've upgraded. We've managed to get team of the year Lewandowski, and we obviously got that Jude Bellingham as well, who is absolutely amazing, by the way. So without further ado, going into the tactics, these are the tactics that I settled on that I thought worked quite well. And starting off first and foremost is with fast build up. Now I think this is really important because the formation is quite a negative in the sense the way it's set up. Obviously with the back four, obviously with the two DMs, the left and right mids, there's a lot of players that start quite deep. So you do need to play a lot quicker to get those guys involved a bit further up the field. If you play on slow build up, you play on long ball, it's not gonna. The players are not going to move up the pitch quick enough. So because you have a deeper starting position, you do need to play on fast build up. This will get everybody up the pitch a lot quicker, and it will get them up the pitch further, more importantly, and it's mainly to do with the wide players. You do need to get them up a bit further up the pitch, and it won't really affect you defensively too much because it's quite a solid formation in the way it's set up. You won't find that there's actually too many gaps because the formation is quite a tight, solid formation. The fast build up allows them to get up the pitch, but it doesn't make them feel. It doesn't make you feel. Never when I was playing did I ever feel like I was open and struggling defensively. So the fast build up really works in this formation. And the chance creation I left on balance. I didn't want to go for direct passing because that would pull like my DMs out of position. Because when you go into the final third, it pushes everybody. Whether it be fullbacks, whether it be DMs, whatever their position and whatever instruction you have on them, it ignores it and this overrides it. So if you have your DMs on stay back while attacking, whilst using direct passing, your DMs will ignore the stay back and they'll run forwards. And that's when you start to have problems with obviously spaces opening up. So I didn't want to do that. The same with forward runs. Everybody just push forward too deep. So I had to leave it on balance. Now you could leave it, or you could go for possession. I don't really want to do possession because then it just allows your opponent to sit in, and that kind of encourages people to play, for example, drop back, because if you're having loads of the ball, they're just going to sit in and defend. So I went for balance, just that allows obviously to still have the option to possess the ball, but still have the option as well for your players to run in behind. So I thought that was very, very clever and it worked very, very well. In terms of the defensive style, I stuck to balance. Now, this is a formation you definitely could use a press on if you feel like it. If you want to go a bit more attacking, I would recommend using press on possession loss. That will also push players a bit further up the field. So obviously, whenever your opponent takes heavy touch, obviously within a tricky position, that is going to allow your players to obviously get forwards and press and make the tackles and make the interceptions, but obviously it is going to allow you to potentially get countered. So I wanted to have the guys go forwards and be a bit more aggressive, but I didn't want to leave too much space. So you could, if you want to be a bit more aggressive, I'd recommend going for press on possession loss. I decided to stay unbalanced. It worked quite well for me. I was still able to create plenty of chances. So if you maybe struggle a little bit more offensively, you could go for that. But for me, balanced worked really, really well. Offensive width, I went to 55 just because obviously we have a little bit of width in the team. So I just think it makes a little bit of sense. Depth, obviously you want to go a little bit higher. You want to go to something like around about 65. I wouldn't recommend going over 70, but this is quite a good formation defensively, so you won't notice too many gaps. So I would say anywhere between sort of 60 and 70 is a really good number for this formation. I settled on around about 65, kind of the sweet spot, just really worked. I think that works for me with most formations, so I think that's definitely a good starting position. And then the offensive width, I went for 65. Now, I didn't want to go too narrow, because whilst going too narrow, it would obviously mean that the left mids and right mids are involved a bit more in the build-up play, the possession, the passing. I do want to have a little bit of an out ball. I did want to have the wide players wide Otherwise, it would have just been the same as playing a 4-2-3-1 narrow. So I wanted to have a little bit of width just so the guys out wide, the wingers, you do need to have natural wingers. You don't really want to have strikers. You do want to have natural wingers. So you got that flashback Neymar. He's great in that position, although he would be really good in the cam slot as well. But proper wingers out wide, use the space, and it's very, very deadly. In terms of the instructions, striker Robert Lewandowski. Oh my God, this card is sensational. He's got to be just every year. Lewandowski is probably one of my favorite players. It just seems to be one of those players that I just click with and just seems to bang goals. But stay central and getting behind on him, and it works so well. Obviously, his finishing is so good anyway, but he was obviously always in the right positions. He was always able to finish off chances. But you do need a real top end striker. But you do need someone who is quote unquote meta in this position, because your striker is going to have 9 out of 10 of your chances in a game. So you do need somebody who's really meta and overpowered and fits that mold and has top level finishing, because they are going to need to score a lot of chances. They're going to need to be clinical, because a lot of your chances will fall to him. They're not really going to fall to anyone else. So you do need a top end striker, especially as well. You need a good cam. Bellingham in this position was amazing. You do need someone as well who is lethal in these two positions. The main attributes for these two, you need players that have got super high finishing. Ideally, if you can get 5-star weak foots as well, because these guys need to score your chances, because they're not going to fall to anybody else in your team. So it's really important ththese guys are top-end finishers. In terms of the two DMs, I've got Vieira and Guardiola. Generally, you want to have proper out-and-out DMs. Obviously, Guardiola, I got in a prime players pack. I've had no luck this year with primes. I know we've got Cantona, but I'm not a huge fan of Cantona. But we had no luck with our prime packs, but that's the way. So Guardiola and Vieira, you do want traditional DMs in these positions. Obviously they're on cut passing lanes, stay back, cover center, the traditional stuff. So you generally want two DMs, two proper DMs, and obviously Guardiola is not very good. Vieira is a little bit better, but kind of falling behind the curve a little bit. So I do need to improve my DMs. But you do want some good top end defensive mids here, because their main job is to protect the back four. In terms of the wide players, we've also got Ronaldo and Cantona. Not so much Cantona, but Ronaldo is good in this position, obviously, but when we've got Lewandowski. But you do generally want to have two traditional wingers. I would generally sub on, I think it was Damsgaard and I believe it was Wilfried Zaha as my left and right wingers. And they were lethal. They were so good, exactly what you need. Blistering pace. They need to do a lot of running in behind. Obviously, with the fast build-up, they're going to be involved in the play. So there's going to be many opportunities to obviously play through balls. So your wingers do need to be fast, because obviously then they're going to be looking for a lot of cutbacks, because they're going to get to the byline quite a lot. So you're looking for the cutbacks, and that's when the clinical players, like we've got up front, like Lewandowski, like Bellingham, need to then take those chances. Because the one thing I'll say about this formation, you do create chances, but it's definitely not one of those formations where you create bucket loads of chances, unless you're playing someone who's just really bad at FIFA. Like if you're just playing someone who you're just much better than, then you're obviously going to create more chances. But if you're playing someone who is decent, you aren't going to get a bucket load of chances. So you do need to take the chances that do come your way. And that's why getting positions and players in the right position is really, really important to maximize your opportunities that you can create. We've then obviously got the back four, Cancelo, DS, PK, and Porro. All of those guys want to stay back while attacking. Like I said many times before, if you've got width in front of you, your back four, especially your fullbacks, you don't need these guys to go forward. If you are struggling a little bit, you can definitely have these guys on balance and overlap. I don't see that as being a problem. If you're someone who is struggling a bit offensively, then having these guys doing that is definitely not an issue. And you're going to notice that you might be a little bit more open defensively, but you should then create a heck of a lot more chances. So there's definitely some things you can tweak with this formation if you feel like that certain things aren't working. And obviously the keeper is going to be on comes, crosses, and sweeper keepers. That's it for the 4-2-3-1-2, the wide version. I do like this formation. Arguably, I prefer it to the narrow formation. It just seems to suit me a little bit better. I don't like super narrow formations. I like formations that have got some width. Hence why I like, for example, the 5-2-1-2 when the fullbacks get forward. I do like lots of width in my formation. So I do think this is a formation that is very, very good. But it is very important to note that you've got to get your positions right. You've got to get the right players in the right positions. Otherwise, you may struggle in certain games. But that is it for today's video, guys. So if you did enjoy the content, do drop a thumbs up and subscribe as well if you are new to the channel. But that is all for today, guys. Have an awesome day. I'm out.